Well, a good Monday morning. Glad you're here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. We're always streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Hope you had a tremendous Easter weekend. And wow, how about that news that dropped early this morning? Pope Francis dying at the age of 88, the Vatican saying on Easter Monday. The statement coming from Cardinal Kevin Farrell. Dearest brothers and sisters, with deep sorrow, I must announce the death of our Holy Father Francis at 7:35 this morning. The Bishop of Rome, Francis, returned to the house of the Father. His entire life was dedicated to the service of the Lord and of his church. He taught us to live the values of the gospel with fidelity, courage, and universal love, especially in favor of the poorest and most marginalized. With immense gratitude for his example, as a true disciple of the Lord Jesus, we commend the soul of Pope Francis to the infinite merciful love of the one and true God. That is the statement on the passing of Pope Francis this morning at the age of 88 years old on Easter Monday. Now, that is a nice statement, and certainly an appropriate statement. I don't think it compares to the President of the United States statement from yesterday when he wrote, "Happy Easter to all, including the radical left lunatics who are fighting and scheming so hard to bring murderers, drug lords, dangerous prisoners, the mentally insane, and well-known MS-13 gang members and wife-beaters back into our country." Oh, my goodness.
Happy Easter, everybody.
Yeah, happy Easter. He is risen. Happy Easter also to the weak and ineffective judges and law enforcement officials who are allowing this sinister attack on our nation to continue. Sleepy Joe purposefully allowed millions of criminals to enter our country totally unvetted and unchecked through an open borders policy that will go down in history as the single most calamitous act ever perpetrated upon America. He was by far our worst and most incompetent president, a man who had no idea what he was doing. Okay. But to him and to the person that ran and manipulated the auto pen, perhaps the real president, and to all the people who cheated in 2020 in order to get this highly destructive moron elected, I wish you with great sincerity, love, and affection a very happy Easter. Aren't you in the Easter Monday spirit after that one, Mark? Come on.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he could have made two separate posts, but
that was a long one, man.
Come on, man.
That was a long one. So some people DM'd me this yesterday. You know, I'm sitting there trying to enjoy an Easter Sunday, and my inbox on social media starts blowing up with that post. You voted for this guy. Oh, my goodness gracious. He's a lunatic. Let's say 7-8 years ago, I might have referenced this and talked about this and come on the show and said, really? Come on, Mr. President. Now it's like this is all baked into the cake. This is who Trump is. I didn't vote for Donald Trump in November thinking that he wasn't going to put up social media posts like this. I just knew the country had a very short window to try to course correct, and that he was far and away the best option to do that. That's why I voted for him for a third time. And if you think some, inappropriate, maybe out of touch for an Easter Sunday social media post is going to be the thing that makes me say, you know what? You're right. I should have voted for Kamala Harris. You got me. You got me. Trump, posted on Easter about Joe Biden being a moron. So, you're right. I did the wrong thing on November 5. Yeah. Yep. No. I mean, yeah, in a perfect world, would you have skipped that post? Sure, yeah, absolutely. Does it make me sit here and think that the country is now on the wrong track? No, not for a second. But it is interesting because the post prior to the one I just read to you, he posted, Melania and I would like to wish everyone a very happy Easter. Whether you are heading out to church or watching service from home, May this day be full of peace and joy for all who celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ. All caps, he is risen. So it's like, I don't know, Caroline Levitt posted that one, and then Trump posted his own message after the fact.
So he did do 2 posts.
He did. Yeah, he had 2 posts. The first one was very nice.
Was the normal one.
Yeah.
Such a nice man.
Makes you wonder who put that one up. And then he got a hold of his own phone and decided he was going to, put his own spin on that Happy Easter message. I don't know. But think about the big topic of controversy over the last week, right? It's this guy, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who is now in a prison in El Salvador, who is believed by district court judges to have MS-13 gang ties, who is in the country illegally, and who the far left in the Democratic Party, which is right now where all the energy is at, right? That's where the energy is in the party. Those are the people in control of the party. They have put Kilmar on a pedestal over the last few years in a way they haven't done since Michael Brown. Or I guess you would say George Floyd. But you can find a list of really bad people that they have propped up for what they believe are positive political purposes. And it's like, does anybody sit there right now and regret a vote for Trump based on a party that is leaning into Kilmar Abrego Garcia? Are you kidding me? Yeah, I'll take the goofy social media posts on an Easter Sunday. No one's perfect. There's one thing we know, right? On an Easter Monday, only one of us in the history of this world have ever been perfect. Wasn't Trump, wasn't the Pope, wasn't you, wasn't me. It's how the world goes. But no one in their right mind is regretting this based on how, the other option in this country, politically speaking, has acted, especially over the last 7 to 10 days with this guy. Chris Van Hollen, the guy who was down there in El Salvador with Abrego Garcia late last week. And by the way, find someone who looks at you and loves you with those eyes, the way that Chris Van Hollen, I keep wanting to call him Van Halen, Chris Van Hollen was looking at Kilmar over a glass of something bubbly late last week in El Salvador. It was quite a scene. So you got these two guys meeting late last week. Van Hollen comes back and he decides he's going to make all the Sunday news TV show rounds. And this really bothered me when he almost called Kilmar an American.
I think at some point the president of El Salvador realized it was looking really bad to have this person who had been absconded from America, from the streets of Maryland, in one of their prisons.
I know. He almost did what they obviously want to do. Call anybody who has ever stepped foot in this country an American, John.
It's kind of like anti-password game. You don't complete the sentence. I was screaming at my TV last night, finish the sentence.
I know.
I'll say, Abrego wrongly deported, admittedly wrongly deported, and finish the sentence to El Salvador. Not wrongly deported, just to the wrong location.
Yeah, that would be nice.
A Maryland man from El Salvador, finish the sentence.
Maryland dad, Maryland father.
Mm-hmm. So I keep yelling at the TV, finish the sentence.
Well, now we get a behind-the-scenes look at the Anthony household. John yelling at the TV is quite a sight.
Van Hollen almost finished the sentence.
Have you yelled at a TV like that since the Chiefs game, or is this the most you've yelled at a TV since the Super Bowl?
It's been a while since the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
I woke up last night, got the 10 o'clock news, and I'm like, finish the sentence.
Well, that'll do it, man. That'll do it.
Picture Jerry Stiller on Seinfeld, Costanza's dad.
Oh, that's you. That's you. I love it. So to tie this all together, nobody is sitting there, and the polling has shown this. CNN had a story on this last week, that 2% of Trump voters at this point regret their vote. And guess what? 2% of Kamala supporters regret their vote. Nothing's changed. The way the media is trying to portray this is all nonsense and largely BS. And it's because they're trying to make you think that the American people are changing their tune, and they're not. And it's because they've experienced 4 years of Joe Biden. They knew exactly what they were getting in Trump 2.0. They knew that would come with a little bit of goofiness, but overwhelmingly, the American people understood the path that we were on economically, on the immigration front, and foreign policy was untenable. And this was the guy who had a proven track record and would be able, if anybody could, to try to turn this thing around. 913-408-7957 is how you join us on an Easter Monday on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. We are always streaming, of course, on the KCMO Talk Radio app if you're on the road this morning. Now, how about that Friday news dump here in Kansas City? Usually this gets reserved for national news. We have something on the Kansas City news front we'll get to next on 95.7 FM KCMO. Jackson County Executive Frank White gave us a Friday news dump of all news dumps on a Good Friday. Frank White elected to basically tell Jackson County residents and the Missouri State Tax Commission to pound sand. Frank White vetoed a county ordinance that directed him to comply with a state tax commission order to roll back and cap the 2023 assessments. Now, this, of course, followed up his announcement on Wednesday of last week when the county executive also defied the Missouri State Tax Commission and said, I will cap the 2025 assessments at a maximum of 15% of an increase on the property assessments for 2025. The Missouri State Tax Commission said, no. This is for 2023. When people saw increases of 50, 100, or 200% in some cases. In very extreme cases. You can't do this. You cannot do this, Mr. White. And he says, don't worry, I'll cap the 2025 assessments. To which many said, well, how mighty white of you. And then on Friday, he rejects the ordinance that said, no, you've got to comply with the Missouri State Tax Commission. In a memo, Frank White said, a final decision has not yet been made, but we cannot and will not implement this ordinance with these fundamental questions remaining unsolved. So that was his announcement on Friday. He provided a 3-page letter asserting 8 reasons for his decision, including the potentially devastating impact it could have on our schools, services, and special funds that rely on property taxes and have likely already spent what they received in the years in question. He seems much more concerned. He is obviously much more concerned about the devastating impact on bureaucracies than he is on his own people. Frank White has not given one rip, and he has not shown to care one iota about anybody in this county, any of his constituents, the people who actually elect him, who may be on the verge of losing their homes, who may be wondering whether or not they can make that property tax payment. He has not shown 1 ounce of care for you. But don't worry. Let's hope the bureaucracies get funded. We've talked to many people about this on the legislature, including Sean Smith, who's going to be back on the show at 8:30 this morning, about how there are ways to do this. There are ways to roll back the assessments on 2023 and not screw over the schools and the police departments and everybody else who relies on property taxes. There's a way to make this work. If you want to make it work, if you care enough about correcting the wrongs as a leader, if you care enough about your own citizens and your own constituents, you will figure out a way to make this work. Instead, this is the lamest of lame excuses from Frank White, but it also has been par for the course. For a guy who has sat there by the wayside and has allowed his own constituents to be put in a position where they feel like they can't catch a break. So the veto comes, of course, a day after he issued that statement committing to capping 2025 assessments. Why would he wait till Friday to do this on the ordinance, though? So the reason that Frank waited as long as he could to say, I am not going to comply with the county ordinance that requires me to comply with the Missouri State Tax Commission to cap the property assessment values at 15% from 2023, the reason he waited as long as he could is because the county commission voted on this by a 5-4 vote. If they want to override Frank's veto, they need a 6th vote. So Frank knew it's Easter weekend. People are out of town. People are, not exactly sitting around looking for something to do. So I will do this on Good Friday. The legislature will meet on Monday. That gives them 2, maybe 3 days on an Easter weekend to try to figure out how they can get a 6th vote to override Frank's veto. That's where this is at right now, and that's why I believe he waited as long as he did. The 4 no votes came from Megan Marshall, Charlie Franklin, Jalen Anderson, and Jeannie Lauer. 3 Democrats and then 1 Republican in Jeannie Lauer. So this is a bipartisan deal. If you are a Jackson County lawmaker, I would urge you to make sure that you reach out to these 4 legislators, Jeannie Lauer, Megan Marshall, Charlie Franklin, and Jalen Anderson, and make sure that they know that you believe that this county needs to comply with the Missouri State Tax Commission and stop trying to protect Frank White from who knows. I'm not even sure what they're protecting him from at this point. But they are working tooth and nail to protect this guy at every turn. And you want to talk about somebody who has no business being protected anymore. It's this county executive in this moment, John.
Got me in line for some Monarchs tickets.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Seriously. You know what? We'll raffle them off for $12 a pop.
We can help you out if that's your interest.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, how screwed do you have to get on your property taxes to feel like I'm getting Monarchs tickets as a good deal in return, for crying out loud? Man, that's unbelievable. 913-408-7957. That is what I would recommend anybody looking into ahead of today's meeting for the Jackson County Legislature, because if they can't override Frank's veto today, then I don't know what's next. Outside of people being stuck with these 2023 assessments, many that are inaccurate, and great. If you got screwed in 23, now they're basically saying, don't worry, we'll only screw you to the tune of a 15% increase now in 2025. Congratulations. How about a little golf applause for that? This is no way to run a county. And it's no way to treat your people who have to wonder whether or not they can stay in their homes going forward because of a property tax, which you can argue is an absurd and illegal tax anyway. But you know what? That's one that we're not winning anytime soon. Property taxes, unfortunately, have just become par for the course in this country, and there's nothing in the near term that's going to change that anytime soon. 913-408-7957. It is good to be here. Great to be here, as always, on a Monday, starting off a new week on KCMO. Just a reminder, if you are not set to join us on June 12th, Guy Benson coming to Kansas City, Fox News, and, of course, afternoon host on KCMO. We'll be down at Boulevard. You can buy your tickets now at KCMOTalkRadio.com. They are selling fast, so we'd love for you to join us. June 12th, that's a Thursday night, at Boulevard. Buy your tickets at KCMOTalkRadio.com. Coming up, the Tesla arsonist has been arrested. What do we know? We've got details next. Book 'em, Dano. A Parkville resident attending college in Boston arrested and made his initial court appearance on Friday in U.S. District Court in Massachusetts to face federal charges related to an arson at a Tesla dealer in Kansas City, Missouri. Woo! They got him. They got him.
I saw that picture, and I thought it was that kid from Third Rock from the Sun TV show. Was it Tommy Solomon?
Yes.
I was like,
Well, it wasn't him, unfortunately, or fortunately,
luckily,
depending on how you look at it. This individual's name is Owen McIntyre, a 19-year-old who has been charged with 1 count of unlawful possession of an unregistered destructive device and 1 count of malicious damage by fire of any property used in interstate commerce. So they caught Owen McIntyre, who is back in the Kansas City area on spring break from UMass Boston. His parents are both musicians up in the Parkville area. I wonder if they do, backup singing for our buddy Victor in Parkville or something like that. I don't know. I'm just throwing out the possibility. But anyway, they're musicians. He's back home on spring break, and he decides he's going to go firebomb a Tesla dealership. Brought a Molotov cocktail, and he got busted, courtesy of, it was an extensive investigation that took place. This was about a month ago that this happened here over on State Line Road. And you knew when the FBI and the ATF were on it, this thing was going to get serious, and it was going to happen fast. And that's exactly how this went down. March 17th is when it all took place, down on State Line Road. You had a police officer who saw smoke coming from a gray Cybertruck parked in the parking lot. The officer also saw and collected an unbroken, suspected incendiary device, also known as a Molotov cocktail, near the burning Cybertruck. And the Molotov cocktail was a clear apple cider vinegar bottle, and a burnt rag was found next to it on the pavement. And then they used surveillance footage and DNA to figure out how to track down this individual, Owen McIntyre, who appeared in court over the weekend. I love the statement from Pam Bondi, the Attorney General. She said here in a statement, "Let me be extremely clear to anyone who still wants to firebomb a Tesla property. You will not evade us. You will be arrested. You will be prosecuted. You will spend decades behind bars. It is not worth it. Crimes have consequences." There's a novel concept.
Talk about a bombshell.
I know we've lived in this world for far too long where crime does not have consequences. That's an especially novel concept here in Kansas City. Wait, what? Crime has consequences? Kansas Cityans have not been used to hearing that. I hope that theme has changed under Melissa Johnson, the Jackson County prosecutor, who, given a shot, looks like she's doing as good of a job as she can do to this point. But that is not something that Kansas Cityans have heard in quite some time. This idea of crime having consequences. But that's what Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, said in her statement over the weekend. The people behind these violent and dangerous attacks on private property will face decades in prison. We will not make deals, and we will not negotiate. This is the second arrest in the last week of a suspect charged with targeting a Tesla. So the FBI was in on this, DOJ, ATF. They all obviously played a role. And now you've got this kid who he's thrown his life away. For what? To set a Cybertruck on fire? It's like this is where the messaging needs to be loud and clear. The people in charge are no longer interested in playing your victim game, whether it's for people who want to come across the border illegally or those who want to firebomb Cybertrucks. We don't care about your victim status. No one's interested in hearing about your sob story. There is no sympathy for criminals. Those days are over. And thank goodness they are. And I wish that message was a more unifying one. I wish that was a bipartisan message we could all rally behind. Instead, we've got senators showing up, looking longingly into the eyes of folks deported illegally who are not supposed to be in the country over, a glass of pop in Chris Von Hollen and, of course, Kilmar Abrego Garcia. It's like you look at the big picture here, right? Pam Bondi is arresting people who are setting Cybertrucks on fire in Kansas City. And the most prominent Democrat in America over the last week flew on the taxpayer dime to El Salvador to kiss the ring of a man who is allegedly an MS-13 or was at some point an MS-13 gang member who had beaten his wife. That's on record, right? And then, looking at him like he's the second coming of Jesus Christ on an Easter weekend. You could not have a larger contrast over the weekend between these two political parties. And that's not good for America. It's not good for Kansas City, not good for Missouri, not good for Kansas, not good for America. But I'm just here pointing it out. I'm just here pointing out what we all see with our own two eyes, right? That's it. Now, over the weekend, you did also have another protest at this Tesla dealership. So Did you make it, John, or were you still struggling to find something to wear?
Well, it was Easter weekend, so I had something to wear, but I didn't want to present it, before Sunday.
Yeah, that's fair.
So
I understand that. So
had the big reveal plan.
Yeah, I get it. You didn't want to wear your Sunday best and waste it on the Saturday rally. So on Saturday, there were about, according to Jackson County legislator Manny Abarca, who is the classic example of a broken clock being right twice a day. He's right, and he's on the right side with this property tax fiasco with Frank White, but he's basically on the wrong side with everything else. He was live posting on X about this, how he was out there standing in solidarity with 50 of his closest friends on Easter Saturday outside of the Tesla dealer on State Line Road. And, of course, that came one day after Pam Bondi made the big arrest or announced the big arrest of this person who bombed the Cybertruck. So he posted on Saturday afternoon at about 12:30, here at the Tesla dealership on State Line with about 30 new friends. Lots of honks happening. They are here till 2 p.m. protesting the only immigrant I know stealing American jobs. Oh, my gosh.
Such a cute soundbite.
The only immigrant I know stealing American jobs. Of course, that's in reference to Elon Musk and Doge. Imagine thinking that a government job is a birthright. Imagine not looking at this entire situation with Doge and saying, we're $36 trillion in debt. We should probably try to find a way to cut the deficit because if not, our country's screwed. And instead of looking at it that way, which is a fairly common sense, unemotional way to look at it, you say, these Doge people are stealing jobs. They don't have a right to steal our job. Oh, no.
How dare you?
You're not stealing a job. You're simply trying to do everything you can to be fiscally responsible as a country. That's it. But when you're of this mindset and when you view this through the prism of everyone's trying to screw the little good old bureaucrat, this is the kind of nonsense that you end up getting from your Jackson County lawmakers who stand there on their State Line Road with their signs. And I'll just put it this way. You had people on the side of the road outdoors in masks. They were in their COVID masks, okay?
Well, they didn't want to be recognized.
Well, of course that's why. But it's funny how they would stand there in their masks and then want to be taken seriously when they're outside on the street corner in 2025. Yeah, I know. You're just protecting yourself from COVID. Yep. You're definitely following the science. Or are you hiding yourself? And if so, my question would be why?
Yep.
Is it because deep down you know the absurdity of what you're doing? Makes you wonder, right? Makes you wonder. Got our good friends, as they do each and every Monday morning at Grandma's Catering, bringing in some nice treats this morning. So what do we have this morning, fellas?
Oh, man, we got some bacon, cinnamon rolls, casserole, fruit. It's a good variety.
That is a nice variety on an Easter Monday morning.
Very tasty as well.
Oh, beautiful. Well, you've already eaten it? God, you guys
I had a couple slices of bacon.
You guys are pigs. Unbelievable.
Eating the pigs.
Eating the pigs, acting like pigs. Save some for the rest of us, okay? Well, if you want Grandma's Office Catering to take care of you, you can win a lunch for $20 at your office with Grandma's Catering and their office invasion. Just go to KCMOTalkRadio.com, click on the contest tab at the top, and you can enter to win lunch for $20 at your office, courtesy of Grandma's Catering. So well done, and you'll even get Mark to show up, and he might eat all the food at your catered luncheon. So that's entirely possible as well.
Yeah, if I get the invite, I might show up.
Trust me, Mark has never turned down a free meal in his life. In his life, he's never turned it down. Reminds me of Vern Lundquist. In your life, with that tiger chip. Mark's never turned it down in his life. So early on Saturday morning, Donald Trump and the administration got slapped down by the Supreme Court. They told the Trump administration not to take any action to deport Venezuelan men based in Texas that it alleges are gang members. So this was all, of course, being done by the administration under what they called the Alien Enemies Act of 1978. And they said, hey, listen, 1798, not 1978. Yeah, John.
I don't remember the year I graduated. I missed that news. Star Wars was out of it.
John's senior year of high school. No. 1798. That's not 1978. I got my dyslexia moment in the morning here out of the way on KCMO. So back to 1798, this Alien Enemies Act has been in place. And the administration used that to say, listen, we're deporting you out of the country under this Aliens Enemies Act of 1798. Well, the Supreme Court early Saturday morning said, yeah, you can't do that. So this, of course, is going to bring up a host of legal challenges. And the thing I keep coming back to is that you now have the left's position here being federal judges, or in this case, the Supreme Court, having the unilateral authority to overrule anything that the Trump administration does. Like, that's kind of where we're at right now, right? It's not about Congress, not about the House, it's the Senate, none of that. It's about whether it's the Supreme Court or, in many cases, just district court judges basically telling the duly elected president what he can and cannot do. Now, you think about what the Constitution actually says. It says that the branches are equal. But what you're seeing play out in recent weeks is that's not the case. You are seeing now, very clearly, the judiciary is superior and is more powerful. The judiciary branch is now basically directing the people through the president on telling him what he can and can't do. But that is not what the Constitution says. The Constitution says that these branches are equal, which means that these judges, in many cases, do not have the authority to override Trump whenever they feel like it. Supreme Court, I understand that's a different beast. And this lawsuit was brought by the ACLU. Is there a group that has not earned its name in recent years more than the American Civil Liberties Union? The ACLU hasn't fought on behalf of Americans in years, for crying out loud. Now they're fighting on behalf of alleged gang members from Venezuela. The lawsuit, the ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union, is the one who brought this lawsuit up, got it all the way to the Supreme Court to make sure that Venezuelans are not deported from the country. And they hang on to the ACLU name. That's truly unbelievable. But it's also the place that we find ourselves in the world that we find ourselves in right now.
It's the Alleged Criminals Liberation Unit. Actually
yes,
is. Right?
Yes. Oh, it's so good. So this was posted by Bill Ackman over the weekend. And Bill's a big hedge fund guy. Used to be just, your run-of-the-mill Democrat on Wall Street. And now he has come around. The extremism on the left when it comes to their anti-Israel sentiments is what drove him to the right. And he posted this on Saturday morning after the Supreme Court decision. I thought it was very well said. A nation in which one administration can allow millions of unvetted illegal migrants into the country, but requires that a court vet each deportation decision in an individually adjudicated case, will soon lose the values of our democratic system and what it was intended to preserve. Right? And it's perfect because you had for 4 years, I don't know what the number is. No one really knows. 10, 15, upwards of 20 million people come across the border illegally. No one did anything about it. No one really could do anything about it. Biden was flying them all over the country and, Republicans complained about it, but there wasn't a lot that they really could do about it. Now Trump's like, okay, we're going to reverse course here. We're going to deport these people. We know they're here illegally. What their gang affiliation is, you can debate that part of it. But in the end, it doesn't matter because we know they're here illegally. No one's denying that. And you've had district court judges all the way up to Supreme Court now saying, nah, can't do that. No way, no how. Sorry. And it's like, well, hold on a second here. You had a guy that for 4 years just said, come on in, laws be damned. Supreme Court couldn't, district court couldn't, or wouldn't do anything about it. But now if you want to reverse course after you are the duly elected president of the United States, you're told, oh, pump the brakes there, big fella. Not so fast, in the words of Lee Corso, who retired last week. Not so fast, my friend. You just hang tight. And, of course, the encapsulation of this is what's happening with the so-called Maryland man. Has anyone seen his Chiefs hat since late last week, since he was rocking that Chiefs hat, sitting there with Chris Van Halen from Maryland? I'm wondering if he's got another Chiefs hat coming our way, or some kind of Chiefs paraphernalia he's going to be wearing next time he's in public.
Yeah, I haven't seen the Chiefs hat, but I also haven't seen him. So
yeah, no one's seen him. I'm just wondering if he's trying to embrace America's team. He's looking for sympathy back here at home by rocking some Chiefs gear. I get what he's going for there, but listen, that was just beyond bizarre last week. To watch a sitting U.S. senator look longingly into the eyes of a known wife beater, an alleged gang member, and an illegal immigrant, as if, this individual has brought anything to the table on behalf of the United States of America and his state of Maryland. One of the most bizarre interactions that you will ever see. And Chris Van Halen goes on all the Sunday shows because the guy is desperately seeking attention. I don't know if he's running for president. People insist that he is. He's still a nobody. And dude, if your claim to fame is being Kilmar's buddy in jail in El Salvador, I'm not sure it's going to work out for you like the way you think it will. Unless, I suppose, the ACLU may give you that big endorsement that you're waiting for. He did admit over the weekend on Fox News Sunday, which aired yesterday at 10 a.m. here on KCMO, that the taxpayer paid for this.
Who did pay for this trip?
This was an officially cleared, congressional trip, cleared on a bipartisan basis. Yes, like every other trip.
You can hear the hesitation in his voice there. Yes. Taxpayer
Obfuscation.
Yeah, I mean, that's it to a T right there is what that is. This is their man. This is who they're latching onto. This is who they're using right now at this moment in time in American history to be the face of their party. They don't have, let's be clear, there is no face right now for the party. Obama's nowhere to be found. I don't know where Obama is. Now, I don't even blame him. I think even Obama's like, man, these guys are losing their marbles. I got to take a step back. No one's in charge. There is no face. And now the most talked about guy in the entire party is a no-name senator from Maryland who's going down to El Salvador to kiss the ring of a guy who 24 hours prior, news reports come out that he was, whacking his wife around, beating his wife. And I'm telling you, the photos, man, I don't know the last time. I mean, listen, I have a great marriage, but I don't know the last time Kate looked at me like Senator Van Hollen looked at Kilmar in some of those photos. Holy smokes, he was like head over heels for him. Hey, jeez. It was like a wedding photo looking at that guy, the way he was looking at Kilmar. Find somebody to love you the way that Chris Van Hollen loves himself some Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Just try to not get beat up with a boot while you're at it there, Chris. At least that's what the police report said. You might have stumbled upon this piece by accident. Hopefully you didn't. That way you saved yourself the headache, and we can just make fun of it here on KCMO at 8:20 on a Monday. But you might have stumbled upon this piece. The Associated Press wrote it, but it made its way into Fortune's website. I saw it on National Panhandler Radio, courtesy of KCUR here in Kansas City. It was an article in the Associated Press written by Ryan Foley, and the headline is, Kansas City has long been a federal hub. The pain from Doge's cuts is everywhere. Now, let's go through the numbers before we get to the sob stories here. According to the article, we've got about 30,000 federal jobs here around Kansas City, right? The federal government is the largest employer in the region, the article states. One longtime Kansas City economic researcher said he believes the region could lose 6,000 good-paying federal jobs, which in turn would wipe out thousands of others in service industries. Now, I would be curious to know who the economic researcher is and what information he has on Elon Musk and Doge and President Trump to come up with that $6,000 or 6,000 job number. because every number they have estimated in the media from the so-called experts has been wildly wrong, John, by a mile.
Not who, what, when, where. Woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Yeah, might. Like, they just make up these numbers. It might happen. Mm-hmm. Just watch out. This is what
they say about monkeys flying out of wood.
I'm telling you, whatever they're estimating is going to be wrong. But here's the thing. They're not going to be doing enough.
The issue is they're not whacking enough.
They are not whacking enough. We have lost, 116 jobs?
Yeah, that was the original article, supposed to be from the IRS.
Yes.
And there are more agencies in town than the IRS, but that's what we've got reported on based on the media's woulda, coulda, shoulda reporting.
116.
100 in Kansas City, 16 in Lee Summit was the original story I read that day.
So 30,000 workers who are employed by the federal government around Kansas City, and the only numbers that we have right now are about 116, and there's a couple hundred others, as the article notes, who have taken buyouts and are expected to leave the agency in the coming weeks. Mm-hmm. So we're up to about 300, but 2/3 of those are willingly leaving, right? So that's theoretically people who are ready to retire, or they're ready to do something else in their careers. So I know this is a novel concept to those who think the government is the end-all, be-all, but there is life after government. Wait, no, that's not possible. That is not possible for there to be life after government, but I guess there is for at least some of these folks.
Our new number is 5884. Do your cause right now. 6,000 jobs could be lost. We've only lost 116. We're going to need more.
Yeah.
Phone in your resignation now.
Yeah.
5884 to get to our goal. From the AP article, as it were.
Oh, is that what they... So what is the 5884?
6,000 jobs could be lost.
Oh,
so far we've lost 116.
We got a 5,888 for it.
I'm not counting the resignations, but those weren't reported on as an official number in our media, so I can't quite use that statistic.
Okay.
So we could round it up, but we're way behind, and we're going to need more people to resign right now.
Yeah. Give us a call. We'll get you in touch with the IRS. 913-4087-95-7.
You got the FBI. I don't think there's any cuts coming there, so that's part of our 30,000.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if all of our agencies are getting cuts.
Well, who knows? It's all speculation. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
These people don't care about actually following what's happened. They just want to fearmonger into what happens if Kansas City loses more federal jobs. And the answer is this: Kansas City will be fine. That's the answer. If you think what makes Kansas City great is our tens of thousands of government jobs, you don't give this town enough credit. I'm not saying those who work for the federal government don't help make it a nice place to be and a nice place to live. But if you think that it hinges, if a metro of 2.5 million people hinges on the government employing 30,000 people, then you don't actually have any respect for the city or the region. You think that we're a community that's simply propped up by the federal government, and that's not true. And it's inherently unfair to, by the way, the real economic engine in a metro of this size, that is small business, medium business, and most importantly, private business. Not the federal government, not the state of Missouri, not the state of Kansas. Yeah, we need them all. I understand we need a functioning government. We need federal employees. We need state employees and city employees. But if you think that they're what makes this town great, you're kidding yourself. And you're being wildly unfair to the people who pay the bill, which are the rest of us.
Trying to conjure images of Detroit after the audio industry goes
down,
I
know,
right?
I know.
It's going to be desolate.
Hollowed out homes. We're all going to look like, certain parts of the east side of Kansas City. You just watch out. People are going to be fleeing this community left and right. That's not going to happen. Okay? It's all fear-mongering. And it's based in nothing. That's the worst part of it. It's based in an unnamed expert who won't even go on the record in an article with the Associated Press. I almost called him the Associated Depressed, which I think is what Mark Levin calls him, which is an outstanding nickname for the AP. But this is the kind of stuff that, NPR, I get why they run the story because they're very concerned about their own funding. And speaking of what needs to be whacked like yesterday, NPR needs to be at the top of the list. My goodness. Just the thought of your government dollars funding National Panhandler Radio remains insane to me. I'm so glad that we are smoking them every morning here on KCMO. It does bring me great joy to kick their butts because some of their employees love to troll me on social media, and I 99% of the time ignore them. Once in a while, I have a weak moment, and I feel the need to respond. Once in a while. What are you laughing at in there, Mark? What do you find so funny? Once in a while, I feel the need to respond, but most of the time, I stay strong, and I ignore them because we just keep kicking their butts left and right, and I'm happy to be doing that. I'm glad we're doing that. It wasn't the case when we got here 7 years ago. But I'm like, man, the sooner you guys are defunded, the better off Kansas City's going to be. And they can keep getting their real news from us here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. And as always, streaming on that KCMO Talk Radio app, because here's the novel concept. We just ask you to support the businesses that support us. That's it. We're not going to be handing out bumper stickers for $5 donations outside of the building. I promise you that will never happen. Waldo continues to get hit pretty hard by the increase in property crimes, and now that property crime in Waldo in particular is turning violent. So this came over the weekend from Fox 4. Here's the report of what was happening in Waldo, where suddenly people are wondering if they can even go outside their homes because of car break-ins that are happening.
People who live in the area tell Fox 4 one neighbor noticed people breaking into multiple cars in the early morning hours Thursday and shouted at them to stop. The thieves responded with gunfire.
Immediately called the cops, which unfortunately it took them a while to get there. They found probably 20 casings in the road. Yeah. And so then they were walking around trying to figure out where all those bullets went. And so 2 of them went into my car, which caused about $1,200 worth of damage, unfortunately.
Bullet holes can be seen on the inside and outside of Marlene Stanley's house. She describes what happened Thursday as terrifying.
I don't know. I think the big thing, I can't get the mindset of human life being so expendable. Like, it's a life, it's like you're breaking into a car.
All right, I'm going to stop right there because that lady clearly doesn't get what's going on here. She is just totally out to lunch. We are beyond the whole, I can't believe people would do this. Oh, my goodness, why would people do such a thing? It's a human life. Why would you take a human life over breaking into a vehicle? Okay, these are criminals and these are thugs that do not care about human life. Stop trying to apply common sense to it and just figure out how to make sure that you have the right leadership, the right police department, and the right prosecutor who is going to do something about it. But the lady on the couch, and the couch was stuck in 1968, I'll add that too, which might have been where her mindset was at as well as an ex-hippie, is like, oh, we just need some peace and love around here and everything's going to be fine. I just can't fathom the mindset. It doesn't matter. The mindset for Waldo residents needs to be, we're sick of this. We're fed up. Our council and our mayor's office needs to react in a much stronger way than they have been for property crimes. And we're going to clean this up as quickly as we can. Waldo's a nice neighborhood, right? Waldo's a nice place to live. You don't buy a home in Waldo and expect that you're going to have bullets flying through your windows late on a Friday or Saturday night because you've got criminals trying to steal vehicles. And then when people show up on the front porch and say, knock it off, they're firing their weapons at you. And they're hitting other homes in the process as well. That's not what people buy into Waldo for. It's not what they expect. And it's what's happening. And the residents who are going on TV, they have got to take a much different approach. This I can't believe people are doing this. This babe in the woods routine is not the message that you want to be sending from Waldo. It needs to be, we need efficiency. We need effective policing. We need more patrol. We need more officers. We need good, solid prosecutors. And we need a city council that is going to put its foot down on the nonsense. That's what we need.
and nobody threatened you. They just told you to stop. So how in your mind, what does it take to get you to the point where you think it's okay to shoot then?
Stanley has lived in the neighborhood for 8 years and has never experienced something like this before.
I've always felt so safe, and it's like now, my son doesn't even want my grandkids to come spend the night, and I don't blame him, and it's breaking my heart. I don't want to sell my house. I love my house. I've put so much work into it.
Neighbors want to send this message to other victims of property crime.
Which is why I posted on our neighborhood page, is like, we all know this is happening. Just call the police. Don't even begin to stop them, because they're armed.
Yeah, they're armed, and hope the cops show up within a half hour too. You just gotta kind of cross your fingers on that as well. That's a bad look all around. Everything about it is just an absolutely awful look. And you've got, I'm looking at it right here. I was just curious. You got dozens of homes for sale right now in the Waldo neighborhood, and a lot of them, I'm looking here, are getting price cuts. Now, that's happening in the market in general because interest rates are still stubbornly high. Market might be softening a little bit, but I'm just looking right now, dozens of homes. And you're seeing price cuts left and right. I got one here, $550,000, $35,000 price cut late last week. Let's see, another $10,000 price cut on this home listed at $279,000. $10,000 price cut on this one for $285,000. I'm just going down the list. $209,000 home, price cut of $10,000. So you got this home that's been sitting there for 64 days. That's a long time to be sitting on the market right now. So this is happening all over that neighborhood. And obviously it's a major problem for the city council, but you know who else should care about this? The professional sports teams. As they potentially get on the verge of asking for more money from the taxpayer, we know how that vote went last year. And I know it would be a Jackson County vote or a Clay County vote for the Royals. It would be both counties. But those teams should care about this, because right now you want to get the average citizen on your side to say, yes, Royals, yes, Chiefs, I will give you more of my sales tax money at a time when people are feeling the pinch, 5 years of inflation now. In Kansas City in particular, they'll look at the situation and say, the crime is up tremendously. My life as a Kansas City resident may not be as good as it was 5 years ago. And I got the billionaire franchises asking for money. The teams have to be aware of that. There has to be some consideration to that angle. And I understand there's an aloofness to being a sports owner that comes with the territory. I get it. You're not going to necessarily resonate with the average guy or gal, and that's fine. It's just how the world is. But acknowledging this and being aware of this will help both of these teams cross the finish line to get their intended goal, which is obviously going to be taxpayer monies. And whether that's getting more involved politically, that's at least publicly acknowledging what Kansas City residents are dealing with right now, whether it's policing issues, prosecution issues, crime issues in general, that will go a long way. I know these teams want to stay apolitical, but let's be honest. They're political behind the scenes. They just don't want to be publicly political. But when you're asking for this level of government involvement through the taxpayer, you kind of gave up the right to be apolitical. You have to lean into this thing right now and say, you know what, we'll stand with the average Kansas Citian. We understand some of the pain you've been dealing with the last few years, really since 2020 in particular, and maybe we'll try to help right or wrong here. Maybe we'll try to make sure this city council is a little more competent next time around. And that can be through privately funded PACs. It doesn't have to be like a check from the owners to say, hey, we're going to make sure the right people get into office. Same thing with the Jackson County legislature. The amount of incompetency, you can see it in the interviews with these individuals. Jackson County and Kansas City is a who's who of people who failed to run for student council government in 8th grade and are finally getting their jollies. That's what you're dealing with. It's just not serious people for the most part. And then you wonder why the city and the county are in the kind of shape that they're in.